who's in can hear us. So just wanted to welcome you guys to our webinar here. Thank you for joining myself and Claire. Looks like I got one more. And we just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a background of what we're kind of doing with this and our goals. Again, we wanted to do a little bit of a webinar that kind of shows the benefits of how chiropractic can complement Pilates and vice versa. And so we like to pick topics and then kind of go at them from both a chiropractic standpoint, and Claire's also going to show you from a Pilates standpoint, and how we kind of would co-manage or kind of co-treat these conditions and cases. And I figured a great one to start out with, because of what's going on right now, is posture. A lot of us are spending a lot more time indoors, and we're just not able to be as active as we would like to be. So with that, like I said, I'll just kind of go ahead and give a quick intro about myself, and then I'll let Claire give an intro about her. So again, my name is Dr. Colton Korne. I am a chiropractor right here in Kearny Mesa. I have been practicing since last April. I was working at Maund Sports Academy, which is a very large sports medicine facility owned by the late Kobe Bryant up in Los Angeles, before deciding to move down here and start up my practice. Again, although I worked at a big sports medicine office and I deal with athletes, they're not the only people I deal with. I treat everybody like an athlete, and I like to help with movement therapy. And I, like I said, deal with athletes from all backgrounds. So whether it's someone who's looking to break a new world record, or it's someone who just wants to be able to play with their kids or go on walks with their significant other, again, that is always tapered towards what the patient's goals are, and I try to help you out. So that's enough about me. I figured I'd turn it over to Claire, give her a little intro about yourself. Claire.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm Claire Maund, and I'm the owner of Corecraft Pilates, which is located on Balboa, just at the 805. My degree is in biological sciences. I worked in the biological sciences for a few years before switching over to electronics, where I also worked for a few years. And that job took me to Amsterdam, Netherlands, where I lived for many years. That was where I started my first fitness studio. I located the fitness studio next to the Amsterdam airport. It wasn't long until KLM Airlines, the Dutch Airlines, discovered me, and I quickly found myself teaching large groups of pilots, flight attendants, and other airport staff. I found my way back to San Diego, and 16 years ago, I got fully Pilates certified, and I started my studio about 13 years ago. Pilates is a fantastic exercise method. What I love about it is it combines flexibility work with strength training in everything you do. It's great for improving your core strength, for better posture, and for helping to rehabilitate injuries. So I just get really excited all the time when I see all my clients and how good Pilates makes them feel. So we're here for you in Kearny Mesa.
Awesome. All right, so I figured I wanted to start us off here and talk a little bit about posture, especially in relation to spine and in relation to spinal health. So the big thing is always, I like demonstrations. So again, brought this out, and if you guys don't know what this is, you have one. Everybody's got one. Beautiful thing about the spine is that it houses probably the most important organ system in our body, which is our central nervous system. And again, the nervous system is how the brain talks to the rest of the body. And we want to make sure that obviously the spinal cord is nice and protected, as well as being very strong. And the way I like to look at the spine is I look at it as like the mast of the ship. And so obviously, if you just had a ship mast by itself, it wouldn't be very sturdy, but we have these guy wires and we have these supporting muscles that kind of help to support the mast from the front and the back. And that's the beautiful thing about what I think Pilates as well does extremely well, is strengthening up the core musculature and promoting good flexibility, which is good range of motion throughout this spine, as well as good stability or stabilization of this spine. And so the biggest thing I like to show people this is that the spine is meant to move in different ways. It can bend forward, it can bend backward, and that's great. But the problem that we tend to see with people who develop pain is over prolonged periods of being in one posture all the time. So again, we look and we see this on me from a prolonged period. We see this, and from the outside, you see bad posture. But what I see is a lot of strain and a lot of stress on the front side of the spine, overstretching the muscles back here. And again, all of these can start to put pressure on these nerves right down here. So I just like to use that as an example so that way people can truly kind of visualize and understand. Now, where I go with this is I try to teach people how to understand their own body. And your body uses pain signals to try and talk to you and communicate with you. So it's always good to kind of keep an ear open for those pain signals and understand, A, what's causing those pain signals to come about or increase them, and also look at what are the things that decrease your pain signals. So again, as I talked about, when we see forward head posture, it's again a postural thing, but we have maybe pain in the back of the neck, or we have pain across the tops of the shoulders. So a lot of people say, oh, my neck is really stiff, my neck is really tight, so I need to stretch it. And I need to sit and I need to do this. And for some people, if it's a tight muscle, that will relieve it and give you a good amount of pain relief. But if you notice that you're constantly stretching your neck and you feel like this isn't really providing a lot of benefit for you or long-lasting benefit, I like to look at different things of, okay, it seems like forward head posture is what causes your symptoms. So maybe let's try a backward head posture. And so with that, it again involves maybe sitting upright a little bit more and starting to work the opposite direction, because the muscles may be tight, but it's because the spine is in this forward posture and it's actually maybe seeking a little bit more of that backward posture. The exact same thing actually tends to go for our low back. And so with that, again, as we're sitting down, we tend to like to sit up nice and straight, but as we get tired, we tend to lose that and we start to go into a lot of flexion or a lot of forward bending. So for those people, I would recommend, let's try something else. So for those of you who maybe have increased pain with sitting, first sitting up to get out of bed in the morning, bending forward to pick something up or tie your shoes, I would recommend, let's try the opposite of forward bending and let's try a little bit of a backwards bend. And there's two different ways to do that. I'll demonstrate the first one, which is probably the most comfortable for people, which is just laying down on your stomach, propping up on your elbows. So from here, I can lay down, I can start laying flat, and then I literally will just prop myself up on my elbows. In Pilates, we see this with an active back extension, but for some people that may be irritating at the beginning. So I would just recommend just relaxing and passively hanging out here, bringing your laptop down here, bringing your phone or a book, and trying to spend some time in this position. Again, the entire goal is to see and self-assess if these are making you better and relieving some of the symptoms, or if they're making you worse. Because the vice versa could be the opposite. It could be people who have pain with backwards bending and maybe they're arching their back too much, in which case I would tell them maybe some forward bends might be better for you. Maybe bending forward to reach for your toes, or even as I like to do is demonstrating laying on your back and rocking your knees into your chest. And just pulling in through here, testing if that also alleviates some of your symptoms. But again, a lot of this just comes from listening to your body's signals and seeing what it's trying to tell you. It's a beautiful thing in that the body will tell you when it doesn't like something and when it does like something. So try and listen to those signals and try to assess if that's kind of making it better. Now, the last thing I wanted to leave you guys with is, again, I always, chiropractic is an amazing thing. It's a very, very powerful tool with the adjustment to help increase motion in the spine where it's maybe not getting it. But at the same time, I'm a very, very big proponent of movement and movement therapy. So I always like to show people different exercises and different activities that they can take home with them to help promote the posture that I was helping to set them in with the adjustment. So with that, I go to one of my classic all-time favorites for sitting too much, which is just a tall kneeling hip flexor stretch. So in order to show you guys that, I'll come on over here to the floor. And what I do is I get down and I find out if some people maybe have pain in the front of the hip or they're very tight in the front of the hip. Then what I do is I tell them, okay, put that knee down, and you can put it down on a cushion, and you're going to put the other foot up just like this, okay? From this position, we want to work on stretching the front of the hip because it's very tight from sitting. But I notice a lot of people who do this stretch, if you watch my back, they tend to hyperextend through the back, and they tend to get more irritation in the back versus a stretch in the front of the thigh. So for this, I simply like to focus on sitting up nice and tall and working on a little bit of a tilt of the pelvis. So if you think about it being in this position, you think about tucking your tail between your legs or trying to tilt your pelvis backwards, and you should already start to feel a little bit of a stretch through the front of that downside leg. From this position, we slowly lean forward, keeping that tilt, and then we come back up with control. You can start to work through this to tolerance, and you may notice you can go a little bit further and a little bit further with this. Similarly, you can take this, and instead of going just straight on, you can even take your foot out to an angle of about maybe 45 degrees. Exact same thing. Sit up tall, tuck the pelvis, and slowly tilt out towards the side. Again, opening up the front of the hip and trying to undo some of those postures that we spend a lot of time in during the day, which is sitting with that hip bent or that knee flexed towards the chest. So again, for this is one of my go-tos for anyone who notices that maybe some pain in the low back or some pain in the front of the hip with extended periods of sitting, that taking a break off of sitting and getting some movement into the spine can really, really do wonders for people. So try that out. If you guys have any other questions about it, just let me know, and I'm happy to kind of give you guys some more feedback one-on-one as well too, if you'd like. But from that standpoint, that's really what I wanted to leave you guys with today, is just an understanding of your spine and how to kind of better understand why you're experiencing pain symptoms and maybe what's driving those pain symptoms. So from that, I'm going to leave it to Claire to get us moving a little bit.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to hand this over to my assistant because I'm not able to hold my camera vertically. And you can tilt it upward. Yeah, there you go. Okay, cool. So to go along with what Colton was just explaining to everyone, other problems that I see with kyphosis, this situation of going like this, has to do with a tight chest. Okay, we're tight, everything pulls in, and we're weak across here, so everything stretches forward. Okay, so I like to try to counteract that as much as possible and to train people to do that as much as possible in their everyday life. So I like to grab a couple of dumbbells. You don't have to use dumbbells. You could do this without them. But the idea is we're going to start right here. We're just going to do a simple overhead press. Okay, now pulling down is the key part. You want to try to pull your elbows back behind you so that right here, I'm getting a stretch to my chest, but I'm working the muscles in the upper back. Okay, all the way up, pull all the way back down, elbows back behind you. Okay, so we're going to go with maybe about 10 of these. And if these dumbbells are, well, maybe you don't own dumbbells or they're too heavy for you, there's nothing wrong with just doing this without it. You know, the more that you pull back and feel the engagement across here, the more good you're going to be doing for your posture. Okay, so let's try to couple some breathing with it. So inhale one way, exhale the other way. Inhale up, exhale center. Okay, this looks really simple, but this is so effective that if you just try this at home, you try it when you're sitting at your desk, you can even try this same activation when you're driving. Okay, just think of stretching the chest, pulling the shoulder blades together. Good, okay, so that's one exercise that I think is wonderful. And now if you have a foam roller, here's where we're gonna do a bit the same thing. Okay, and now I can probably just flip this the other way so my assistant doesn't get too tired out holding that. Good. Okay, so you're gonna take your foam roller and you're gonna sit at one end, and your head is going to go at the other end. So this is right along underneath my spine. Okay, we're going to do kind of the same thing that I just explained, except that, you know, without dumbbells and without my assistant having to work so hard. Okay, so you're going to take your arms straight up from your shoulders, I'm reaching my hands straight up to the ceiling. Okay, and here I'm gonna lift, and I'm trying to lift the outside edges of my shoulder blades off the roller. Then I'm gonna bend my elbows, open up the chest, slowly pull the elbows down to touch the floor. Right here, I'm getting that same stretch, and I'm really manipulating the shoulder blades in contact with the foam roller, so it feels really good. It's like a little bit of pressure, but that's really relaxing my upper back. Okay, so I'm gonna reach, lift, okay, and activate the shoulder blades. Just put them in a different position, try to pinch the foam roller between them. Okay, so in Pilates, we're always cognizant of breathing, so inhale here, exhale as you reach the arms apart. Okay, big chest stretch here. Okay, inhale, lift, exhale, all the way apart. Good, let's just go for a couple more like that. Then I'm going to change it up just slightly, but the same idea. So these are all things that you could do at home on your foam roller. Okay, another way to do this same technique is to start here. I'm going to take one arm alongside my ear, the other down by my roller. And I'm going to manipulate those shoulder blades just so that they move around a little bit, applying pressure of the shoulder blades onto the foam roller, relaxing that, relaxing back there, getting everything kind of unkinked. Okay, and all the while really stretching out your chest. Okay, so it's going to be inhaling one way, switch, exhale the other way. Okay, use your abdominals here to stabilize. Okay, inhale one way. Now another way that you can do this, and you just have to find which of these scenarios works best for you. Both arms coming all the way down to the floor, lifting all the way up and over. Try to breathe with this. Just inhale one direction, exhale the other direction, so that your slow breathing determines the tempo of your movement.
And
good.
Quick question, does your low back position affect this exercise or this movement at all, or do you focus on that, or is this primarily just for the shoulders?
Yeah, I was primarily focused on stretching out the chest, manipulating the shoulder blades. But yeah, I mean, my low back is just relaxed. I probably have a little bit of a space here, but it's not something that I cue people to focus on. The big thing is here.
Okay.
Okay, good. So another way then to impact the same part of the body is to take your foam roller, switch it the other way. Okay, so right here, I'm going to support my head in my hands so my neck is relaxed. And I'm going to come to the top of my shoulder blades, and I'm going to roll along my shoulder blades to the bottom. Okay, I'm really just trying to open up the chest again, pull the elbows back as much as I can, and the impact of the foam roller on the shoulder blade area, all the muscles should be trying to relax those muscles, put everything back into place. Okay, because the more kyphotic you are, the more you end up this way all day, your shoulder blades start to think that that's where they're supposed to stay. So we're putting them back into position here. Okay, and again, it's deep breathing as always in the Pilates method. It's a inhale one direction, exhale the other direction. Okay, good. So from here, I also wanted to address low back and spinal articulation. So this is called bridges. Okay, so this is going to focus on the lower part of the back. Okay, so I'm going to start right here. I'm going to try to have my pelvis level, okay, otherwise known as neutral. Okay, and the first thing I'm going to do is tilt my pelvis by driving my low back into the floor. So I'm going to drive my low back. This is causing my pelvis to tilt to here. Okay, I started here, tilting here just by driving the low back down. Right here, I'm going to lift one vertebra at a time, pausing on the upper back. Pause, go down one vertebra at a time. So you want to kind of think of a string of pearls, one pearl at a time or one vertebra at a time. So the purpose of what we're doing here is spinal articulation. You're really trying to move one vertebra at a time so that you're stretching and relaxing your spine. But the other thing going on is using your abdominals, strengthening the abdominals by using them in this pelvic tilting back and forth. Right here, I'm also focused on my glutes and my hamstrings, okay, which always need to be strengthened. So I do a lot of work in my Pilates training where I'm helping people to strengthen the gluteus maximus. It's the biggest muscle in the body, so it needs to be strong in order to support your back from the lower part of your body and also for proper gait. Okay, so I'm going back and forth here. Now my clients usually just don't want to stop. This should feel really, really good. It just feels like you're just stretching all those vertebrae apart like Colton had when he showed us the spinal model. Okay, so I'm just going to go for one more here. This is a great one if you feel like your low back is tired out or it hurts from sitting too much. I just want to throw in one more here that I think is really simple but very good also for low back. And that is, we're starting in tabletop legs. These are just called hip rolls. So from here, I've got my knees right above my hips. I'm creating a horizontal tabletop here with my shins. I'm pulling in my abdominals. I'm opening up my chest. And I'm pulling my shoulder blades together underneath me. So kind of continuing what we did in the last 2 exercises. So you might not see it, but I'm working my upper back muscles to manipulate my shoulder blades into a better position. Okay, I'm just going to take both knees over toward one side. I'm just going to hover. So right here, I'm feeling this chest stretch. I'm feeling a low back stretch, but I'm working my abdominals to hold this position. And you hold here for 5 breaths. Okay, this should feel like a really nice stretch. Okay, and then at the end of 5 breaths, we're just going to roll over, do the other way. So I'm still looking straight up, but I'm kind of twisting my body from side to side. Okay, we're going to do each side again. Okay, so holding there, 5 big breaths, exuberant exhales. Good, and over to the last side. So this is feeling pretty good. I sort of feel like I'd like to do that for another 10 minutes, but I won't. Okay, so at this point, switching it back over to Colton, and maybe we want to open this up for questions, or don't know what else we want to move on to here.
I just wanted to end with a couple quick notes. Again, Claire hit on some really, really good points of spinal movement in the sense that, again, as I said, like, the spine loves to move. It actually enjoys moving in different directions, and it needs that movement to increase blood flow and stay healthy. But when we move it in one direction too many times, again, with posture or with lifestyle habits, that, again, it just means that we need to test some different movements or try to do the opposing movement. As Claire was talking about, if we have a forward posture with our chest really tight, the more chest openers we can do, it tends to balance out the musculature from the front and the back and tends to help that out. So from that standpoint, that's great. And the last thing I wanted to comment on was the breath and the breathing, which is super, super important, because breath is not just for air, but it also helps out neurologically, in that when we're in a position of maybe extreme stretch or an end of a range of motion where the body may feel a little uncomfortable, breathing and taking nice slow breaths or breathing through these positions can help to teach the body that this isn't a threatening position for us. We're actually okay. But those nice slow deep breaths can kind of tell the body to relax, calm those tight muscles and those spasms down that we tend to feel with associated pain. So
yeah, good point.
So much, Claire. And I just wanted to open up again. We have about maybe 5 to 10 minutes here at the end, and so I just wanted to open up if you guys have any questions about anything that we did, or lastly, if you guys wanted to reach out to either of us for more information. I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat box again if you don't have it, and then Claire's as well. We'll put that in case you have any personal questions that you want to just direct to us directly. You can send us emails on that link. But again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to speak up now, and we'll give you guys a minute or two just to answer any questions that you have.
I had a quick question. Is anything you presented today dangerous if you've had an L4-5 disc herniation?
Again, a lot of these are very, very simple movements. I mean, again, the positions of maybe laying on your stomach or laying on your back or some of the exercises, I would just recommend take it slow in the beginning and listen to your body. If you are in this position and you're noticing this is really increasing my symptoms, then that may not be the correct exercise for you. But if you're doing the exercise and you're noticing this feels good for me, and as long as you're maintaining good form, then I don't see any of these as being extremely dangerous. Again, I use all of these exercises. A lot of the ones that Claire just demonstrated, like the one where she was laying on her back doing her bridges. I have a patient that I had earlier this morning, a middle-aged female who was having trouble lifting boxes, and I use that exact same exercise to help strengthen her core and alleviate some of her back pain, and she has a disc herniation. So, a lot of these exercises, again, nothing that would be dangerous or detrimental. So just take it slow, listen to your body.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, I would be careful. Go ahead.
Oh, the chiropractor I'm working with, I guess I have, after this disc herniation, I have a fear of flexion. I have a fear of flexion. And so it looked like some of those did more of did the pelvic tilt. It was more like flexing your lumbar spine. And so I was a little concerned if that would be a bad movement for something that I've had.
Yeah. Again, I think it's like Colton said, it's just, you try it real, slowly, see what works. I actually was a little more concerned about this one. If you're, L4, L5, to me, this one is going to be possibly putting some pressure there, but it feels great to most people. So I think it's just a question of little by little and make sure it doesn't bother you.
Yeah. And even just to add on to that as well, again, with these bending or these different movements, the way I like to look at an injury is like, if you have a back injury and it's acute and you're in pain, it's kind of like an open wound, and then the body starts to form a scab over that open wound, right? And so maybe in the initial phases, forward bending for you is like picking at the scab, so it's kind of re-irritating and everything, but it's not like I never expect you to forward bend for the rest of your life. It's that we kind of let the scab heal, and then once the scab heals, there's scar tissue forms underneath, and then the skin becomes solid and intact again, and then we reintroduce those forward movements. So that's a big goal and proponent of my care is, again, like, hey, I want to maybe avoid that forward bend for now, let things calm down. When it starts to get better, then we start to reintroduce those movements. To answer also with the forward bend with the
that makes sense.
Yeah. And with the pelvic tilt, the nice thing about what Claire was demonstrating with the bridge is that you're laying on your back. So there's no gravity compressing on that disc or compressing on the spine. So those pelvic tilts actually can be, or most often are comfortable for people, even if they have a disc herniation, because there's no gravity compressing on the spine, and you're really working to turn on or strengthen those abdominals, which are those guide wires, right? Those supporting muscles of the spine. So I recommend those. Again, it's starting on your back. There's no gravity. You can strengthen your abdominals and your glutes that way. And then we build you up from the ground up. So that's the way I like to look at it.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Love to see you guys next week. Again, if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Claire. And we're, happy to answer any questions that you guys have during this time. So thank you. Stay safe.
Yeah, sounds great.
Stay positive. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Okay.
Cool.
Bye, guys.
Bye.